on the screen. Well, hello and welcome to Hey Boomer. My name is Wendy Green and I am your host for Hey Boomer. And at Hey Boomer, we are changing the conversation about retirement. Rather than seeing it as an ending, we see it as the opening of a new chapter, a time for exploration, self-expression, and learning. I hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. And now we move on to Hanukkah and Christmas and New Year's. Where did this year go? My guest today is Brenda Ackerman. She's the author of a book called Aging Sucks, but You're Gonna Love It. Aging sucks? Can I say that? I'm the persona of positivity, the one who is always inspiring you to set another goal or dream a new dream, no matter how old you are. I am the cheerleader of aging well. No negativity about aging from me. So why am I having Brenda Ackerman on as my guest, the author of Aging Sucks, but You're Going to Love It? I have to tell you, when I saw this title, I was intrigued. So I reached out to Brenda for a chat, and I immediately liked her. As I started to read the book, I admit I was a little bit uncomfortable at first. You know how when you learned about cuss words and that they were bad, and when you heard someone say one, you got uncomfortable? Well, that is how I felt at first. For the past 3.5 years, I've been saying that aging is part of the process, but it does not define us. I have never said anything bad about aging. Well, maybe I said I could not do some of the things I used to do as easily, but I did not say that this change sucked. But to be honest with you, as I continued to read, I started to appreciate her honesty. There are things about getting older that are not easy. And as women, we typically are our own worst critics. So we notice every wrinkle or every extra pound, and we cringe when young people call us honey or ma'am. And we realize that we've become more invisible and at times experience the impatience of people around us because we might not be moving as quickly as they would like us to. So yeah, maybe aging does suck, although it's still hard for me to say that. And there are definitely many things to love about our age. And we're going to find out about all of that when I bring Brenda on. But before I do, I want to encourage you to check out our newest sponsor, Delilah Home. So Delilah Home is the maker of soft hemp bed sheets, plush organic cotton, kitchen, bath, and beach towels. And you are going to want to put Delilah Home into every room of your house. The company only uses 100% GOTS certified organic cotton and non-toxic hemp for its home goods. Delilah partners with fair trade factories, which are certified to the highest textile standards. And the company pays above living wages while exceeding all local and national laws. Until November 30th, they are offering 25% off site-wide plus free shipping if you use the promo code HOLIDAY25. So if you use my affiliate sponsor link, which is bit.ly/DelilahHome-Boomer, I will get credit for your purchase and you will get 25% off your link. So with that, I want to welcome Brenda Ackerman to Hey Boomer. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Wendy. Thank you for having me.
I am so glad that you agreed to be on the show.
Thrilled to be here.
Thanks. I want to do just a short bio before we get going.
Sure.
Let me find it. Okay, so Brenda began her career as a legal assistant and worked her way up to becoming a multi-award winning sales and marketing leader at the 3M company. Throughout her tenure, she had the privilege of coaching and mentoring countless women and men and is proud to have been part of their successful careers. Now in her retirement, Brenda is hoping to once again coach and mentor women and men by helping them navigate the aging process. In addition, Brenda is the proud mother of 2 wonderful adult children and a fantastic son-in-law, and she is an over-the-top grandmother to 3 beautiful grandchildren. So welcome, Brenda, and we're going to talk about aging sucks.
Fantastic. Let's talk about this, Wendy. Yeah, let's talk about why aging sucks.
Yeah, so tell me, why does aging suck?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll talk about myself and, why I think aging sucks. It's all the things, the physical manifestations that come along for women as we journey through our lives, and I'm talking like the physical things that people notice about us, that judge us on, and we have to deal with. And that's things like everything from our lines and wrinkles, which is an inevitable part of the aging process. We slow down a little bit. We're not as physically active perhaps as what we used to be. Things happen to us. I mean, gravity comes along and things start to shift and move around a little bit more than where they were when we were back in our 30s. So there's some things that come along that for the, through the journey of aging that do suck. I mean, and I talk about the physical things, but I think you alluded to it a little bit earlier, Wendy, the things like women become invisible as we get older, and we find out firsthand the sting of ageism and how that feels. And it's a brutal thing to experience, but it's our reality. And we're not alone when we go through it. So I wanted to make women aware of this. I wasn't aware of all of these things. I've seen it happen to people ahead of me, but until you're actually going through it and recognizing what that feels like, it's hard to understand it. So I just wanted to put it out there, put it all out there, actually. And I do.
You do. So tell the listeners what motivated you to write this book.
A couple of things. It was a pandemic project for one thing, and I became very passionate through the pandemic, and I was on my own through the pandemic, and so I had a lot of time to fill. And so it was a couple of things. I was dealing with my mother's passing, and that the pandemic gave me a window in which to do that. And because my mom had passed just shortly before the pandemic started, it gave me a chance to kind of assess my own mortality and where I was, and realizing that we'd lost the matriarch to my family, and that as a result of that, I was now the matriarch to the family, and I was going to be next in line. And wishing I'd had some conversations with my mom that I never had. And so it prompted me to start to do things in preparation for my mortality. I have a little black book that I've developed for my kids that in the event of my passing, they can go to this one-stop shop and they will have everything they need to know about me in order to conduct my funeral wishes and get my estate underway. And as I was putting that all together and the fine tuning of that, it occurred to me that there was probably some more things that I wished I'd talked to my kids about, or I wanted to make sure they had a deeper understanding of some of these things that I seem to be late to life in learning these things. And I wanted my kids to get ahead of it. Things that I talk about, like the forgiveness of people and self-love. I mean, I was really late to the self-love party. So I started to write notes to my kids about all of these things to fill my pandemic hours. And then one thing led to another. It started morphing into this book, and it became broader. And I took my lessons and I made it bigger, and I made it not just for my children, which it still is for my children, but more for women as well, to talk about some of these things that we experience and how I dealt with them, and maybe offering some wisdom about how they could handle them should and when the time comes that they're going to have to deal with them. So
Yeah.
that's really what prompted me to pull this all together.
So it was a very personal beginning with the loss of your mom, and you had just retired. You had great plans, right? And now you were suddenly in lockdown.
Big plans. Yes, I was starting my retirement, took an early retirement. I have a place down south, and so I was down south enjoying my newfound retirement days. When we got the call, all snowbirds, to come on back to Canada, it was lockdown time. And so we in Canada suffered through many lockdowns. And so I had to find ways to keep myself busy. And I also binge watch Grace and Frankie, and that show and those two women, outside of their characters, have meant so much to me in trying to assimilate this aging process and understand it. You feel like as a woman you're going through these things in isolation, and that show brought visibility to many things that all women are enduring. So I took comfort in the arms of Grace and Frankie as I was binge watching them, and it gave me a lot of laughs, and it made me laugh about some things that I had been moaning, and just gave me another perspective. So I write about them.
Yeah, it gave you the opportunity to speak the truth of what's, like I said in the opening, to say aging sucks. It's like, no, it's all good. We're all good.
I know.
But I loved how you spoke the truth, and some of the personal emotions that you had to go through. You have a quote in your book from Brene Brown where she said, people who wade into discomfort and tell the truth about their stories are the real badasses.
Absolutely.
And you say, I wrote this book with my badass energy.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did, Wendy. I
so
did.
Where did that courage come from? Tell me.
You know what? Listen, I was out of my comfort zone. I mean, I'd never written a book before. I never had intentions to write a book before. This just all happened, and I felt as though I was led to write this book from just these things happening. And that sounds probably really woo-woo and maybe a little bit frightening, but it's just my reality, just what it was. And I knew that I had to get very authentic and very honest about this. I wouldn't have put this book out there in a half measure. It wouldn't have been genuine, and it would have been a disservice to other women as well if I sugarcoated things and made it sound like this is all, love, light, and Lululemons, because it is not. There's some tough times, that you're going to go through as a woman as you go through the aging process. So I put it out there, and I was vulnerable and took a huge risk, personal risk. But I thought one of the things I came through, one of these aha moments I had in the pandemic as well, is that my retirement has been cut short by a couple of years of the things that I wanted to do. So I said that when I got out of the pandemic, I was going to go harder and live larger and be bolder and live louder. And so a book is a testament to that as well. I did it, and I did it, and I'm proud that I did it. It was something I'd never done before, and it took me way outside my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I learned a ton of stuff along the way. I learned some stuff about me, certainly, and I learned some new skills. My God, social media! Wow,
Right.
Yikes.
Right. And I do applaud you, because it definitely took courage to be as vulnerable as you were in this book. And
thank you.
I think that's what helped me get comfortable with it, because at first I was a little uncomfortable. As I said, there was like, oh, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. But then I realized that I hadn't been owning the truth of it,
Interesting.
Right? Because I've been only talking about the positive side of things, and there are things that are much more challenging. So thank you for sharing that. Now, you came up with something in the book, Brenda, called the Wonder Woman score.
Yep, I call it the Wonder Woman quiz.
Okay.
And do you want me to talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah.
What prompted that? You know what? As I started to kind of assimilate some of the things into this book, I started to take some kind of an accounting about women shortchange ourselves about what we have done and what we've accomplished. And I think just from the physicality alone, women are extraordinary in what we have assimilated into our lives without really giving it a lot of thought. And I think, back, like I talk about like the M&M, everything from, menstruation through to menopause. And there's a lot of stuff in between there that happens. And so I thought, let's start to see if we can quantify this. So women can take this quiz, and it's not a scientific quiz. It's just, let's start to write down, give yourself a check mark for each one of these things that you have gone through in your life. Everything, as I mentioned, from the M to the M, but childbearing and, premenstrual syndrome and all of the stuff that you go through as you're going through the perimenopause journey right through to menopause and beyond. Pregnancy, post-pregnancy situations. We just take it all in and we just go on with it and we just move about our days. And we don't really give ourselves a lot of credit for some of the stuff. So I did that very deliberately so women could stop and just stop and think about what we have been through physically as women. Like, we're not the weaker sex,
No, we're not. We are not the weaker sex.
Like, it's extraordinary what we've all been through. And so I just wanted women to kind of shine a light on themselves and give themselves grace for what they have been through.
Yeah. Yeah. That was fun to kind of go through that and see what your score is. And you talk about it throughout the book. So we've talked about, oh, let me read this comment. This is very sweet. This is from someone Melody, and she says, I've asked for your book for Christmas. I look forward to reading it, knowing you as well as I do. Honored to call you family.
Oh, it's just my cousin Melody. Thank you, Melody.
It's so sweet. Okay, so we've talked about some of the challenges, the physical changes and the abilities to be as fast or as strong or whatever. So why do we love it?
I say when you get through the menopause thing, I mean, that seems to be a pivot point. It was a pivot point for me. But the liberation you feel from the strength that you have, the wisdom that you've gained, the risk taking, the lessons that you've learned. Oh my God, I feel like I have been preparing for this my whole life. I feel I'm home, Wendy, like who I am as a woman, as a person. I feel I finally made it. This must be the promised land, for how I feel about myself. And I don't worry about what others think about me like I did in yesteryear. It's liberating to me. And it's just, I'm in the best time of my life. And I don't doubt that even for a nanosecond. I have been preparing for this my whole life, and here I am. And it is a beautiful thing. It's wonderful. So I do love it. And despite, the aches and the pains and the lines and the wrinkles, I don't care about that anymore. Not like I did. It's just the outcome of getting through all of that is so much better than any of those things combined,
Absolutely. Yeah. I do think there is a sense of freedom and a sense of centering almost that happens as we get older. I mean, we're constantly learning, right? We're always learning.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you meant, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I totally agree with you, Wendy. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you were late to the self-care thing.
The self-love party, when I was younger, if someone had stopped me when I was in my 30s and said, do you love yourself? I would have dismissed it immediately. I at the time, it would have been, I think, so self-indulgent. I would have felt it would have been too self-indulgent for me to think about that and really honoring myself and what I had been through or what I was dealing with at the time. That wasn't my job. I mean, my belief at the time is that I had my children that I was looking. I I had a career. I had a husband. I had all of these other responsibilities. That's where my focus was. My
Mhm.
focus was not on myself.
Yeah.
I was just getting through the days and doing the best I could. But my focus was it was and loving my family. Not turning the mirror and taking a look at myself. That wasn't so. I feel maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm alone there, Wendy, and I was kind of late to the self-love party and everyone else is way ahead of me. And I acknowledge that could well be true. But it just seemed to me that things started to shift for me when I turned 49 and I was looking at the big 50. That seemed monumental to me. And so that was the time that I kind of took and started to do the inward gaze at myself to find out and ask myself the hard questions that I probably should have been asking myself when I was 30, when I was 40, on those earlier years. But I wasn't. I was too busy with life.
Well, I think that's it, Brenda. I think, and at 50, your kids were probably starting to leave the nest,
Yeah.
so you had a little more time.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's not uncommon, that we don't take the time for ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but now you talk about a self-care toolkit, and
Yeah.
you include things in there like affirmations and journaling and forgiveness and music. And then you have something in there called the mirror technique. So most of those things I think we understand, but can you explain the mirror technique?
Yeah, this one's awkward, okay? And I'm the first one to admit it. And listen, I didn't invent it. It's been around for a long time. I'm just latecomer to that party as well. I should have been doing this when I was in my 20s, when you had all those, self-deprecating thoughts about your body. But, as you get older, and I talked about the gravitational shifts, things move around, like you start to add some extra weight and whatnot. You feel less confident in your body and how you present yourself. And so this mirror technique is one that I have talked about, and I encourage women to do, and men too, for that matter, to do this. And really what it is, it's just taking the time to look at yourself thoroughly without judgment in the mirror. Naked is the idea. I think about, if you've ever seen the movie Good Luck to You, Leo Grande, from Emma
What a great
Thompson.
movie. Yes, great
Beautiful
movie.
movie. And Emma Thompson, she's the mirror mentor. Like, I mean, what she did is exactly what I'm trying to project in the mirror exercise. Just taking an appraising glance at your body as it is right now, and enjoying it, and don't assess it. Don't look for the extra weight you're carrying. Don't look for how the gravitational effects have affected you. Like, just assess and
And
just
appreciate.
and appreciate, Wendy. That's exactly it. So that's a technique. And I offer women in there, men too, the opportunity. Just here's some music, like get yourself in the zone, mentally, to kind of get yourself kind of, in the zone to do this kind of thing. Cause it's not easy. I still find that a challenge to do. I still need to do it. I should be doing it
What
now.
would be the outcome? What would be the positive outcome from doing that?
I think it's just an appreciation and an acceptance of how you look. You are okay just as you are. There is no fixing required. You're unique. You've got your own story. All of these things that have happened to you are a symbol, like they're symbolic of what you've been through in your life. So appreciate them,
Yeah.
like
I
respect yourself.
I love the phrase that you are perfectly imperfect.
Yeah. It's so
Right?
true, isn't it?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, look around. I mean, we're all different, and we're all perfect in our own ways. Nothing wrong with
Yeah.
any one of us, but we have these ideas. And I think that's because we are barraged with the messaging that, as a 65-year-old woman, she'll be trying to look like I'm 30, like my daughter. Well, I don't look like my daughter. Would I like to? Yes. But I don't, and that's my reality, but my daughter hasn't been through menopause. My daughter hasn't been through the gravitational
Well, she
effect.
also hasn't been through some of life's challenges that you've been through,
Absolutely. She's at a
so
different stage,
right.
so I don't try to look like my daughter, but society tells us we should try to maintain our youth at any cost. Well, that's not realistic, and I
And
think
that's
it's
why.
time that we shatter some silver ceilings for women. That's unrealistic, and we need to fight back against it. We don't have to do that.
Right. And that's why we're trying to change society with all this discussion about ageism. And
Yeah.
yeah. Bernadette says it's wonderful to embrace aging, wrinkles and all.
Yeah.
Self-love is important. And then she says, what do you advise women who spend tons of money on plastic surgery?
I don't judge women who do that. And if women want to do that, I think you're a grown ass woman and you can make that decision. If you're considering plastic surgery, you're probably of the age where you are mature enough to make those decisions. I hope you're not doing it if you're under 20 or 30, because I think you probably have some more living to do before you make that kind of decision. But I don't judge women. If women want to have plastic surgery or Botox or fillers or whatever else is out there, there's a plethora of stuff out there, then go ahead. If it's going to make you feel better about how you present to the world, then make your decision if that's what you want to do. But just make sure you go to someone who's a licensed and reputable physician.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do yourself
Mm-hmm.
that honor.
Yeah.
Go to the right person, do your homework on that. So Bernadette, you know what? You're probably quite beautiful the way you are. But if you choose to do something, just make sure you go to someone, a licensed professional, to help you.
Bernadette she is beautiful.
Okay. So,
Um,
yeah, so I don't judge women who do that. Listen, I use all kinds of lotions and potions and stuff to help me. Oh,
I do too.
you don't get this, just for.
I do too. Yeah. And June says if you do not accept yourself, you most likely can't approve of or accept others. And there's probably some
Probably,
truth to
I
that.
always think there probably is as well. Yeah.
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 So throughout the book, one of the things that I found was so unique about this book, Aging Sucks, but You're Going to Love It, is that every chapter has music in it. And
Mhm.
how do you put music into a book?
Yeah.
How did you figure that out, Brenda? That is such an interesting addition.
Well, QR codes are in our world. Every time we turn around, we see QR codes. And it occurred to me that as I was kind of writing this book, I would immediately think about music as well. And I think, my mom, because we always had music when we were growing up. We grew up on music, country music specifically. And so I wanted to use music to help support my stories. And so I came up with the idea of putting QR codes in there. And so I did my due diligence because, the copyright business for music is very stringent. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't stepping on any artist's toes and getting myself in a heap of legal trouble. So I did it the right way. I reached out to Spotify and got their blessing on doing this. And I worked with a QR code company. And I also contacted a music lawyer to make sure that I wasn't going to get myself in hot water for using QR codes. So I just put them in there because I found, I think Dick Clark has said, music is the soundtrack of your life. I agree with that. And so I chose to supplement my stories and my life lessons with the use of music. And some of it is just music that kind of fit whatever I was talking about. And in most cases, though, it was music that was a placeholder for me at that particular time in my life. And I just wanted to share it.
I really did like that. I mean, I've never seen anyone do that. And music is very important in my life too.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm feeling down, if I put music on, like you can't help but smile, right? You just feel better.
It changes things, doesn't it? Yeah, it's a
It
lift.
does.
It's a
It
lift. Yeah.
does.
Yeah. I agree.
So how did writing this book change you?
Mm. Well, as I mentioned, it did take me out of my comfort zone, and never having done anything like this before, never intending to do anything like this. It also made me stop and take stock because I was putting these things together. I thought, I have been through a lot, and I do have a lot of lessons here. And I do think I have a thing or two that I could share with people. So it pushed me into that space, by offering some of my advice, and people can take it or leave it. I'm not trying to shove anything down people's throats. I think we all have independent minds and can think for ourselves. So it's my story and how these things helped me. But it kind of reinforced my courage and my resilience, because I did start and stop this a few times because I thought I'm not a book writer. So it felt like I was an imposter, so I had to get over that. And I was so passionate writing this thing, Wendy, that I just kept going with it. I didn't even tell my kids that I was
Oh, you
writing,
didn't?
not until I was almost done the book.
Wow.
Because I just wanted to see if I had it in me to do this. And and not that they would have said, "Don't do it, Mom." I don't think they would have done that at all. But they might have been cautionary to me. But they were so great and were very supportive of it. And I just carried on with it. So it was risk. And I talk about the Fool card in tarot. You jump off the ledge and into the unknown. Well, I took a jump. I didn't know what was on the other side of this. But I'm also at the point in life, I think, who cares? And it's not lost on me that this book could suck more than aging does itself. Like it's not a good book.
It does not. It's a good book.
Thank you. But I was okay with that, Wendy. I thought, you know what? This is something I just want to do. I felt passionate about doing. I felt compelled to do it. So I just kept going with it. So I had the courage to do it, and I'm happy that I took the risk. I'm up for adventures at this stage in my life. This was a heck of an adventure. I will tell you that. I'm happy to.
Well, and like I say sometimes on the show, you're never too old to set another goal or dream a new dream. And you certainly stepped into that.
I did.
And it sounds like not only did you learn about your comfort and your resilience, you also learned, darn, I've had a lot of things happen in my life that I've learned lessons from.
Yeah.
And these could be valuable, even if it's just valuable to your children, but it happens to be interesting and valuable to many of us. So what's next? Are you going to do a 70s sucks when you turn 70?
Do you know what my son says? So, because I wrote this book, as a survival guide for women. That's who I am. That's what I know. And
Right.
I don't know if my experiences would mirror that of a man's. I'm sure they have different things. So my son teases me that my next book should be Aging Sucks, Dude. So write it for the men. But
so he has to help you with that one.
Well, I would definitely be interviewing men to get the scope on that. But what's funny, Wendy, is that I wrote this book, like I said, for women, but I have had men come up to me who are older than me and younger than me and said, I have learned so much about women from this book. And one fellow was, he said, I'm a self-proclaimed womanizer and I thought I knew everything about women. He said, until I heard this book, I read this book, and it's like, I can't believe I didn't know this stuff. So I'm learning that there's a lot for the men to kind of catch up on insofar as women, what happens to women, because I don't think women talk about this. A lot of these things are shrouded in secrecy. Like even women don't talk about the change, I say we got to talk and change the way we talk about the change,
Right.
We need to be more open about it and understand what your partners might be going through on their menopausal journeys. Like this is not an easy road to hoe, so I hope that men are paying attention.
Yeah, and that makes me think, Brenda, do you think there's a difference between the way you would talk about these things in Canada as opposed to how you might talk about them in the US?
That's an interesting question. That might vary state by state or province by province even. That's an interesting question. No, probably not, because I just think I'm just being me. I'm just putting myself out there and I hope that it crosses the borders effectively, and my intention is not to offend anyone. And I, there's this woman came up to me. I had this event that I was speaking at, and this woman came up to me who was considerably older than me. And I had my poster up of the book cover that said, Aging Sucks, but you're going to love it. She came up and she said, you know what? I don't like that word sucks very much. So she was offended. And I said, you know what? Me either. But it was the only word that I could come up with that I think effectively captured what I think some of these things are. But
Yeah.
he said, but the good part is you're going to love it. And so she smiled and said, well, I was a teacher. And so I had to hear some of my students say this word. So I never did like the word. So my intention, Wendy, is not to insult anyone by
Right.
anything I put in the book. That was never my intention, or to be vulgar in any sense. It's just authentic. I think
It is authentic.
it's
And
authentic, and that's who I am. And
yeah,
I
I
hope
don't
that
think
I
it's
don't offend.
offensive in any way at all. I think it was just interesting. The reason I asked that is because, I think at least me with my friends, like maybe we don't have enough boundaries. We talk about everything.
Do you? I mean, that's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
wonderful that you do.
And maybe we need more, discretion. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So you say somewhere in the book that you wish you had a book like this when you were younger, a
Yeah.
roadmap of what to expect when we age. So what
Mhm.
is a couple of the most important things that you would have wanted the younger you to know?
Oh gosh. I mean, the self-love thing for sure. That should have been that I should have known that in my younger years. And
Mhm.
I guess it wasn't anything we talked about as a family. It wasn't a thing back in the early 60s that we were talking about self-love. That would have been crazy talk. But forgiveness is another. That's a skill set that I learned that one too late in life too. And I think if I had to wind back the hands of time, I would have loved to have more of a sense about the power of forgiveness. And I would have let go of some of these grudges that you hang on to far too long before I did. So I think that's a powerful skill set that I wished I had when I was younger.
Yeah.
So those are two big ones for me. And I wished I'd kept a diary all those years. The journaling thing, when a little girl, you get your diary, with a little lock on it, and
Right.
you do it for a month or so after the Christmas, present, and then you kind of set it aside. Like, I just think the power of journaling for me has been so cathartic,
Mhm.
and it's changed my life. Being able to have that outlet to write things out and just get things out on paper that maybe you've been holding inside for too long. So I
Yeah.
find that a really powerful kind of cathartic release mechanism for me. I really encourage people to journal, but it's not a natural thing, I've learned.
Yeah, I encourage people to do that too, Brenda. I
Yeah.
think I find for myself that, I can have like what I would say the monkey mind, it's just going around with all these different ideas and da, 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 da. And if I can sit down and write about it, I start to get more clarity
Yes.
about what I'm really feeling and why I'm feeling these things and what I might do about those things. So I think journaling is very powerful.
That's exactly what I would say, Wendy. It helps me slow things down enough because I like to handwrite my journals.
Handwrite, yes.
Because that forces me to slow it down and really articulate my thoughts that are kind of percolating up there. So you've said it
Yeah.
beautifully. Yeah.
Yeah. And some people do that through meditation that I haven't gotten good at that,
Me either.
maybe one day.
I've tried numerous times. I've attended courses. I'm no, my head's just still kind of going too quickly, and I need to force myself to slow it down and get it out on paper. That seems to be the method for me.
Yeah, that works for me too. So
Yeah.
thank you. So you know that Hey Boomer is for those of us who are over 50 or 55, and we are looking to live these fully engaged and healthy and positive leaning lives.
Yeah.
From all that you have learned by writing this book and by living life, what are 2 or 3 takeaways you'd like to leave with the listeners?
You know what? I would say if I had to relive some things, I would have earlier in my life taken more risks, lived bolder, you know, taken the leap and who cares? Why? I mean, I've only regretted the things that I haven't done. I rarely look back and regret the things that I have done. I've done some stupid things, of course, but my biggest regrets are the opportunities that I didn't take or the chances that I didn't take. So I would say to anybody out there who is in the midst confronting something right now that seems terrifying to them, and they don't want to jump off that ledge because it's comfortable where you are and it's too scary putting yourself out there. I'd say go, take the leap, put yourself out there, do it, do it. And I'm not talking about throwing yourself out of an airplane,
Right.
but do that if you want. But
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the day-to-day things like make that phone call, pick up the phone, send that email, do those kinds of things, right? Take that job. Yeah, maybe you're not 100% qualified. You will grow into that job. So take it. What have you got to lose? You got more to lose by not trying it than
Right.
trying it.
Exactly. And if not now, when? You're going to look back one day and say, woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Yeah.
I'll do it now.
And you know what, Wendy? I even have on my vision board, and it's back home in London, a sign that's on there that says, a big one that says "No regrets." As a constant reminder to me, don't stop yourself from doing something that might be considered bold or brazen. Who cares? Like, just do it.
I think that's great wisdom, Brenda. Thank you for sharing that with us. For those of you who would like to learn more about what Brenda's doing, she has a website. It's brendaackerman.com.
Yep.
And you can certainly find the book there. Aging Sucks, but you're going to love it. There are so many things in this book that I think you're going to love. And the honesty in it, Brenda, I so appreciated. And the music, you introduced me to some music I didn't know about.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm glad.
Brenda also has offered to receive email from anyone who would like to email her. And her email address is Sterling, STERLING, 47 Inc. at gmail.com. And
Yeah.
that's Inc. INC. So Sterling47 Inc. at gmail.com. So get in touch with her and let her know what you thought about today's show. That would be a lot of fun.
Yes.
And thank you, Brenda, for being with us today. And I also wanted to thank all of my listeners who responded to my email about gratitude. I received so many caring messages of gratitude. Like Jean said, I need to be reminded that while I can cultivate the art of being grateful, I need to keep that garden watered. And Josephine commented that she was grateful for the mom that she had when she was alive in physical form. And she's grateful for her home and her cats and for the boomer banter. And June and Deb and Kathy all let me know they were grateful for me and for Hey Boomer. And so I just, sometimes I feel like you're talking to a void. So it's really nice to get that kind of feedback. And please leave me your comments in the live chat or on the blog posts or wherever you're listening to the podcast. I would love to know what you thought about today's episode and what you like about what we're doing. Also, don't forget to check out Delilah Home. They are having a 25% off until November 30th. And you can go there by going to bit.ly/DelilahHome-Boomer and get yourself some of those beautiful organic sheets and towels and all those they make nice gifts. My guest next week is a woman named Donnie Davis. And Donnie is the founder of the Gaga Sisterhood, which is a national membership organization for enthusiastic grandmas. She founded the organization in 2003 after witnessing the birth of her first granddaughter and going completely gaga. Donnie has hosted a bi-monthly speaker series for grandmas from all over the U.S. for 20 years. And she'll be stepping down from her role at the end of this year to pursue new interests. She's going to come join us to talk about rituals and traditions that we can share and carry forward with our families. And so continue to embrace this time of your life with exploration, self-expression, and fulfillment. Thanks so much, Brenda.
Oh, thank you, Wendy. It's been a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you.
My name is Wendy Green, and this has been